I was drafted April the 4th of 1969 into the Army. I was in college, and I got into it with a world history teacher that was a communist. And I walked out of college, had a year and a half, and 6 weeks later I got that draft notice. Inducted in the Army in April the 4th of 1969, went to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic. And after basic, I had orders for 11 Bravo, which is infantry, to go to Fort Polk, Louisiana. And I was graduating, practicing for graduation, and they called and wanted to know, sent me to the orderly room. They wanted to know if I want to go to Fort Huachuca, Arizona, to learn to operate cameras and radar out of an OV-1 Mohawk. Well, never heard of Fort Huachuca, never heard of OV-1 Mohawk, but anything had to be better than a foot soldier in Vietnam. Well, I came in country at Cam Run Bay, January 22nd, 1970, and I was stationed at Da Nang, Vietnam, to the DMZ. And the whole time I was there for 4 months, I took pictures out of airplanes. It was OV-1 Mohawk. It was a pilot and myself, and the pilot flew the plane. I had everything that he had. I could land and fly the plane, and I had this little arm that came up, and it was like a target, and I had the camera was on rollers inside the plane, and the door would open when I'd hit this little button. The door was open, and the camera would be ready to take pictures. So I'd take the stick lined up what I was getting ready to take pictures of, abandoned airfield or radar site or whatever. One time Vietnam was a pretty country, and we was riding around. We was through their mission. We came around the side of a mountain, and the foliage in this mountain area was you could tell it was dead, artillery site. So we flew back around, and I got all set up. I couldn't see anything down there, but when I turned the film in, they come out and started hollering for me. You got to see this. There was a Viet Cong with his AK and a loincloth. There's smoke coming out of his rifle, and the shells coming out. And of course, I couldn't see that, but and I give anything. I had that picture in my house today of somebody shooting at me. Since I was drafted, I was an enlisted man, and I had served guard duty at night. One night, they carried me out and put me on they was building a new wasn't an airstrip. They just revetted us the Parkees OV-1 Mohawks in. They dropped me off a deuce and a half, a canteen of water, and a sandwich. And I was going to be there all night. Well, as soon as I got out, I started walking around, and every other night they was dropping mortars and rockets down in that area there. And so I got looking for me a place to go, like a bunker, and I couldn't find one. Well, I seen some guys digging a telephone pole hole, and the biggest post hole I ever saw. And I walked all the way around, didn't see a bunker, nowhere to go. I thought, man, if we started getting a rocket mortar attack, I need somewhere to go. They started walking mortar down that runway, and every mortar was getting closer and closer. And man, I run over there and got in under one of them airplanes, and I got thinking, it tells you in the Bible about your life is a vapor. And I'm thinking, man, if they drop a mortar on this plane here, all this JP-4, I'm going to be a vapor. So I went running out of there, and I took off, and man, the mortar's still coming. Just about every 30 seconds, the mortar was hitting closer and closer. I went over and looked at that telephone pole hole, and like I say, it's a big one. Now, at that time, I was 160 pound, 6'5". I was a beanpole. Eased over in that hole and held my hands up and stepped in it. Well, I went down a long way. And my feet never did hit bottom, and I was stuck. And every time a mortar hit, dirt came in on me. And every time, then they hit, and then they go on up. They walked them right over me. Well, I don't know how long I stayed in there. I heard the sirens going off, all clear, and I knew then they'd be coming out looking for me, because man, water's all around me. And I heard the truck coming up, and I heard them hollering for me, and I'm screaming, I'm hollering. They come over, and they thought it was funny because I was down in there. Thank goodness I went in with my hands up. They went and got a rope and pulled me out of there, and it was a big talk, big fun, big joke right then. But you know what? Look where I'm at right now. I had a little hooch maid in the last 7 months I was there. She was like our little sister, and she took care of two different little houses, and four GIs in a house, and we'd all get every payday. We'd all pool up some money, and the average income for Vietnamese in 1970 over there was American money was $2.50 a year. So we'd all pool up something in order to get her a nice umbrella, a nice radio, or something nice for her. And I named mine. I have 5 daughters, and I named my number 3 daughter after our hooch mate over at Leanne. Did Vietnam change me? Daddy, I was raised in a brick house, car, truck. We had farm, and we had guns and cattle, dogs, cats, and we had running water, had bath. Early 50s, we didn't have air conditioning, but we had nice heat. We had curtains, we had screen windows, had the hot and cold water. You go to a place like Vietnam, and they don't have any sewage. They have just thatch housings with no screen. They sleep on mats. No doors, just little a mat hanging up. They just go through. They had all kind of bugs and roaches like you've never seen, and lizards about a third the size of our alligators crawling around. They urinated and went to the bathroom on the side of the roads or in cemeteries. And that's what I talked to Sparkman High School a few years ago, and a child asked me, did Vietnam change me? Yes. But when I come back home, I realized how blessed we Americans are. You can go out there and get in a car, and you can go, we're free. We can go, if we can go anywhere, in any directions. And when we got up that morning, we had a bathroom to go to the bathroom and brush our teeth and take a shower. Mom's in there cooking breakfast for us. You'll go in there and open your refrigerator, man, look at the food we got. Go to town and go shopping, look how blessed we Americans are. I came back and a totally different person, that we Americans live as kings and queens. And boy, and what freedom is. Before we went to Vietnam, Americans went to Vietnam as communism, and when we pulled out of Vietnam, communism took back over. And I never realized till I went and heard a dear friend of mine, Tom Boyer, Vietnamese refugee, talk about after the Americans left. I never thought, TC never thought about the people that we left over there. And they're good people. They're no different than us. You know, they have a heart, and they have a soul, and they love. They have families. And we Americans just left them, abandoned them. And they went back to communism. And until I heard Miss Boyer talk, I've never really thought about it. I was just so proud that me and my buddies got back home. I was so selfish till I heard her talk. And I realized they're human beings too. And bless her heart, her and her sister made it here to America. And boy, she's a good advocate for freedom. And it tells about how good Vietnam had it made while the Americans there until we left.